Nursery of the Gods, The Consciousness Paradigm, or The Science of Seth by James Cobbin. Preface. If at first the idea is not absurd, then there is no hope for it. Albert Einstein. To wonder at the mystery of life is central to the human experience, uniting us all, for who has not pondered the meaning of life or marveled at their own existence? It is the deepest of mysteries and the most personal. Various religions and philosophies have sprung up over the centuries offering answers, and whole civilizations have come and gone, taking with them their own unique points of view. The view that currently holds sway in the modern secular world is called scientific-materialism, or just materialism for short. This is a perspective that perceives the universe as an enormous, soulless machine. It is a view that strips reality down to its bare physical essence, suggesting that everything, including consciousness, is fundamentally material. It proposes that our universe follows a deterministic path, bound by immutable laws of cause and effect, devoid of meaning or morality. Under the lens of materialism, consciousness becomes an inert byproduct of matter. It is considered an epiphenomenon arising from matter, incapable of influencing matter, and ultimately reducible to the very matter from which it sprang. This view has shaped modern societies, allowing us to affect the world around us in ways that are harmful to nature, ways that would have induced a strong sense of guilt in more traditional societies. However, there's a growing desire to challenge this materialistic worldview. What if materialism could be unraveled by a single new concept? Imagine peeling back layers of reality to reveal a perspective that challenges our current understanding. Such a new perspective is emerging, one that positions consciousness, not matter, as the foundation of reality. This fresh outlook diverges from previous religious and philosophical thought, providing a unique and unprecedented understanding of our existence. This exploration isn't meant to critique science as a method, but rather to critically examine its worldview, materialism. We'll delve into materialism's origins, evaluate the evidence supporting it, and scrutinize its validity. Despite the reverence it holds in some circles, the concepts of materialism aren't beyond questioning. In fact, there's a mounting urgency to re-evaluate its principles, as the effects of a materialistic society, such as climate change, increasingly threaten the stability of our planet. In the second half of this volume, we'll look at a new theory of reality, subjecting it to the same critical scrutiny that we gave materialism, to see how well it stands up to the evidence. In Volume 2, we'll field test this new theory, looking upon the long saga of human endeavour through the lens of history, coming finally full circle to where we began in Volume 1, with the birth of materialism. But we'll be looking with a new set of eyes, and with a startling new understanding of the nature of reality, identity, consciousness, and what it means to be human. Of course, as with any new reality story that challenges a previous one, ours will appear false from the perspective of the old story. That is to be expected, and is what led Einstein to remark that any new idea, if it is to have the power to spark change at a fundamental level, will have to appear, at first, absurd. The comparative mythologist Joseph Campbell once described the type of creative personality capable of producing genuinely new ideas as mankind's wakeners to recollection, summoners of our outward mind to conscious contact with ourselves. This is a fitting description of Jane Roberts, the 20th century American writer and mystic whose work furnishes the philosophical basis of this book. For 21 years, from 1963 to 1984, Miss Roberts dictated material in an altered state of consciousness for a personality who called himself Seth. During that time, Seth developed a view of reality based on the idea that consciousness, and not matter, is the fundamental ground of being. The Seth material, as it came to be known, is unique among such communications, in that it provides a detailed description of reality, a theory complete with testable hypotheses, many of which have now been confirmed through experiment. The results of these and other experiments contribute to a large and growing body of evidence that supports Seth's assertions but contradict materialism. From quantum physics, through cognitive psychology, to the emerging field of complexity science, Seth's ideas are beginning to seem less exotic and more mainstream. This book is subtitled The Science of Seth because his material fits so well within the context of modern science. Science itself is not hostile to a consciousness-based theory of reality, and actually supports it with both evidence and theory. As we continue to probe the mysteries of life and existence, it's clear that our understanding of reality is far from complete. It behooves us all, then, to remain open to new ideas and willing to scrutinize the ones we currently hold dear with an open mind. Chapter 1. The problem with paradigms. New ideas are not accepted easily. When they take fire, however, they literally sweep through the universe. Seth. For all the brilliance of modern science, with all of its powerful technologies and useful gadgets, there is a problem with it that must be addressed, a character defect that affects all its branches from physics to biology to psychology. The difficulty is the philosophical stance that science has taken towards reality, a view called scientific-materialism. It is problematic because scientists interpret reality through its lens, and that lens, as we shall see, is a distorting one. Materialism is composed of a group of beliefs about the nature of reality, formalized as 5 axioms. These are termed reality, or strong objectivity, locality, or local realism, causality, continuity, and determinism. They will be discussed in detail in Chapter 2, but some general background will be useful in understanding the historical background in which materialism arose, and the reason for its immense power today. Materialism, as a system of beliefs, has become so internalized that most working scientists accept it without thinking about it critically, if they think of it at all. To understand the philosophical stance of modern science, and by extension, the philosophical assumptions that undergird much of Western culture's attitude towards reality, we must understand what this belief system is, how it arose, and what purpose it serves. Only then can we understand how it affects scientists and our own behavior, and why we are so desperately in need of a new philosophical understanding of reality and our place in it. The roots of materialism date back to the early 1600s, a time when the Catholic Church was persecuting early scientists such as the cosmologist Giordano Bruno. Their crime was publicly disagreeing with church doctrine, and their punishment was death by being burned alive. Materialism provided a safe haven within which scientists could work without fear of persecution, but it would not assume its final form until the early 20th century, by which time scientists had reached a crisis point in how they would treat the phenomenon of consciousness. Before this time, many leading scientists held opinions about the nature of consciousness that would soon be considered scientific heresy. In fact, some of the greatest scientific minds of the time were actively engaged in exploring aspects of consciousness like telepathy and clairvoyance. These scientists considered such things to be natural occurrences, as worthy of investigation as any other natural phenomena. They founded respected organizations like the British and American Societies for Psychical Research, and at first their investigations did not draw fire from the wider scientific community, because their research posed no serious threat to the still-forming scientific worldview. But a catalyst was soon to emerge that would force the scientific community to take a position on the nature of consciousness once and for all. This would result in the downgrading of consciousness from a natural phenomenon to an epiphenomenon of matter. An epiphenomenon is something that exists as a secondary phenomenon alongside a main phenomenon. It is a kind of inert side effect. An epiphenomenon has no independent existence of its own. It is completely powerless, more an illusion than a reality. Epiphenomena can do nothing on their own. They can't initiate action and can't affect matter or anything else in any way. Whatever they do as a ghostly reflection of an underlying process, which is the true reality and the basis of their existence. Materialists did not arrive at this position by experiment, but because they had little choice in the matter. It was a logical necessity of the 5 axioms mentioned earlier. It was becoming apparent that if these axioms were to have logical consistency, consciousness would have to be treated as an epiphenomenon. Scientists were not led to this conclusion by any observation of nature, but simply because the axioms of materialism demanded it. If materialism was correct, then consciousness had to be an epiphenomenon of matter. As we shall see, scientists were happy to accept this conclusion. By the early 20th century, the scientific community was becoming increasingly atheistic, and the notion of a universe governed by matter and the cold logic of mathematics fit in well with their beliefs. The catalyst that forced science to harden its position on consciousness was a disturbing series of findings that were emerging from the new field of quantum physics. By the 1920s, physicists like Max Planck, the originator of quantum theory, were making statements such as this: "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness." To say that matter comes from consciousness was, to say the least, a remarkable statement for a physicist to make, and would today be branded as the worst kind of New Age nonsense, scientific blasphemy. At the time, however, Planck's comments could not be so easily ignored. He was not some fringe scientist, but a leading scientist at the pinnacle of his career, and the originator of quantum theory. His assessment had to be treated with some respect. Nor was he alone in his assessment. Many of the other pioneers of quantum theory expressed the same idea, that consciousness and not matter was the fundamental basis of reality. Quantum physicist Sir James Jeans, for instance, stated that the stream of knowledge is heading toward a non-mechanical reality. The universe begins to look more like a great thought than like a great machine. Mind no longer appears to be an accidental intruder into the realm of matter. We ought rather hail it as the creator and governor of the realm of matter. The idea that mind, or consciousness, could be the creator and governor of matter made most scientists uneasy because it came too close to the idea of a creator God. Because of their history with the Church, scientists were understandably leery of acknowledging such an active role for consciousness. And yet quantum theory was leading many of the most highly regarded physicists of the day to the conclusion that consciousness and not matter was the fundamental reality. On this point, Seth would agree. "The simple fact needs restating," Seth said. "The physical universe and everything in it is the result of consciousness. It did not evolve consciousness. To the contrary, consciousness not only created the physical universe, but continues to do so." Science found itself at a philosophical crossroads, where one path led towards a consciousness-based view of reality, and another led to a mechanistic, matter-based view. The stakes were high, and the pressure to resolve the issue was mounting. Scientific paradigms. At this point, it is worth taking a closer look at what is meant by a scientific paradigm. The concept was first introduced by the philosopher of science Thomas Kuhn in his influential 1962 book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. Materialism is a paradigm in Kuhn's terms, meaning that it is comprised of a set of beliefs that are shared by each member of a group.